Hey everyone, and thank you so much for clicking on this video. My name is Justin, and I'm starting to get a little bit frustrated with what I'm hearing. People are saying about the Toronto Maple Leafs now that day one of NHL free agency is complete. Now, don't get me wrong, we are still very, very far away from day one of the regular season or even day one of training camp, and a lot can and definitely will change. This is not the roster that we will be heading into training camp with. Kyle Dubas has gone on his press conference after day one of free agency and has made it very clear that there are still a few changes that will be made. But people are overreacting about, oh no, the Toronto Maple Leafs are such a bad team now and dramatically worse than they were even last year. I wholeheartedly disagree. And I encourage everybody to consider during this experiment that I'm going to do on Armchair GM right now, to consider the fact that you do not need to be a skill-based team. In fact, that's proven to be not the way that you win. The Toronto Maple Leafs have always been, or shouldn't say always, over the last few years have been a very strong regular season team. But then when the push comes to shove and the playoffs start, they do not perform. But likewise, you've got the teams like the Montreal Canadiens, the New York Islanders, teams that are built for specifically playing a certain game style in certain situations. Those are the teams that succeed in the postseason. And it doesn't matter how they get there in the regular season. They could have a terrible regular season. As long as they make the playoffs, their strategy will be successful in the playoffs. And that is what the Toronto Maple Leafs are attempting to do in this free agency. We did not get the flashy names. We did not get the big players. We got value pieces that are going to fill out our roster. Believe it or not, the Leafs have a ton of depth now. People seem to think that the Leafs just lost all their depth. I'm going to go through a little bit of an armchair GM here and hopefully expose the idea that our team is better prepared for certain situations in the future now with this roster than we have been in the last few years. All right, here we go. As you can see here, I've got Cap Friendly open. I've got an armchair GM. I'm just going to call it free agency day one because this is just after one day of being open in free agency. Let's take a look at this team. Now, a lot of people seem to think that the Leafs only have $855,000 in cap because, as you can see, this is here. But look at all the players on the roster, and this is not going to be how the team will look. Most of these players are locked into a taxi squad or playing on the Toronto Marlies. Michael Amadio, taxi squad. We've got Curtis Gabriel not starting on the team. Alex Biega not starting on the team. In fact, you know who will be starting on the team, in my opinion? Nick Robertson. So once we make those changes right there, those few changes, all of a sudden we opened up a ton of cap space available. In fact, what you're going to find is Pierre Engvall is eventually going to go down here as well. I don't think there's a spot for him right now. I think they're going to bury his contract. And all of a sudden we have $3.5 million in cap space. Now, how would I take a look at the line combinations? Well, David Kampf, I actually see being our third line center. Now, it's possible that he does ultimately get a fourth line spot, but I think their ultimate plan with the Toronto Maple Leafs is to put Alex Kerfoot on the left wing with one of the top two lines. So he'll play either alongside Matthews and Marner or Tavares and Nylander. Robertson, for the time being, I would also stick up there, but as you can see, we still have $3.5 million, and the report is that the Toronto Maple Leafs are going to go out and try to acquire another top two line left winger to play alongside either Matthews or Tavares. But for the time being, we'll put Robertson as a placeholder. Bunting on the fourth line with Spezza on the wing and Brooks at center, and then Mikheyev with Kampf and Simmons. This is a deep team. The defensive unit would be the exact same as last year minus Bogosian, but Sandin gets a bigger spot. Muzzin with Hall, Riley with Brody, Dermott with Sandin. I don't know if this is actually how the lines are going to shape up, but this is how I would see the lines. This is not a bad team. No, it's not the most flashy team, and some people are going to still debate that this is not as good of a team as they were last year. Well, I disagree. Kerfoot's a better player on the wing than he is as a center. In fact, his role as a center was a shutdown center role on the third line. We acquired David Kampf literally to be a shutdown center, someone that can take faceoffs, play defensive unit against their top units, win draws, play on the penalty kill. That's what we've been using Kerfoot for the last few years, and that's not his role. We are instantly better by putting Kerfoot on the wing and allowing Kampf to take over that responsibility. Michael Bunting is someone that is easily able to move up in this lineup, and I think he's going to be an instant fan favorite in Toronto. His tenacity, his work ethic is very similar to that of Zach Hyman, and he has the potential to move up in this lineup, especially if we do see some injuries. I do question the Wayne Simmonds signing now that we have a few more people on the roster. I don't really see him fitting on that third line, but it is possible that we can keep him there. I'm not sure what that happens. But ultimately, I think that we continue to shop Ilya Mikheyev and try to get him out. If we do move Ilya Mikheyev out, then Robertson can move down, and we have all of a sudden $4 to $5 million in cap space. You said spend about 3.5 of that on a free agent or in a trade on a left winger like Brendan Saad to play on the top two lines on that left wing spot. And then you bring up Pierre Engvall, you bring his contract up and put him on the books. Or, again, you've got Curtis Gabriel, Michael Amadio. You've got players that are ready to step up. Joey Anderson is someone that Kyle Dubas had said in the past is ready to step up into the Leafs lineup and take on more responsibility. Can he get that opportunity if there are some injuries? Regardless, this is not a bad team. In fact, this team is more prepared to play in special situations than we had last year. We've got scoring lines with Matthews and Marner, Tavares and Nylander that we're hoping to go up against either the first and second or second and third lines of the opposition. We've got more of a shutdown third line with David Kampf at the center. Ilya Mikheyev is a good defensive player and still can generate some offensive opportunities, but you are not relying on this line to score you any goals. And then you've got a fourth line that offers some depth and some players that are still young in Brooks and Bunting that can step up in the line if you have some injuries. Regardless, you've got a better power play, better penalty kill, better for all situations, and you didn't lose much as far as actual skill. Yes, people are going to isolate Zach Hyman, losing him. It's going to be a hit for us at the beginning. However, Michael Bunting can fill in that role, and this team is still able to work in certain situations that I think makes them actually a deeper, more effective team. If this team is not as productive in the regular season, who cares? You don't need to finish first in your division, clearly, to have success in the playoffs. The Leafs just did that last year and still got eliminated in the final game of the first round yet again. We need to build out a better team that is more prepared to play in the playoffs. And I believe this team, with their ability to play in multiple scenarios, is better prepared for the playoffs. And the fact that we've got $3.5 million in cap space, and if you can move Ilya Mikheyev, almost $5 million in cap space, that provides so much flexibility throughout the regular season. It becomes exponentially more cap space available at the trade deadline, and you can figure out where your needs are come the trade deadline based on this team's performance in the first half of the season and allocate that money at the deadline for where you need it. I think that this team, the way it's built, the way it is strategized, Kyle Dubas, the way he's put the team together, is much better prepared to enter next season, or at the very least, enter training camp. I know a lot of you are going to disagree with this take and think that the team is a lot weaker today as it was last year, and that's fine. I mean, it's not going to change anything. Whether you have high hopes for this team, low expectations for this team, it's not going to impact their performance. Only time and their ability and their performance will tell. I am just here to be the voice of reason, to show that this team really is not as bad as people are making them seem. Yes, they went out and got value players, not the big names, but players that play the roles that we have desperately lacked in the playoffs in years past. People keep talking about the defense, that we should have focused on that in free agency. The defense wasn't the problem. It definitely wasn't the problem last year, but it wasn't the problem for the last probably 3 or 4 years. In the playoffs, we haven't been able to score. In elimination games, we cannot score. Why is defense all of a sudden our priority when it's literally not the reason that we've had failures in the playoffs? It's a lack of depth on the offensive front, and we clearly shored that up today or yesterday with the acquisitions that we've made in free agency. I hope that this provides a little bit of light. I hope that maybe a few of you start coming around and having a little bit of belief in this team. At the end of the day, no matter how the team looks for day one of training camp or day one of the season, I truly hope that all fans will band together and support the team no matter how they look, and hope that we go on a bit more of a run throughout this regular season than people might have expected. But it is our responsibility as fans to obviously critique and judge this team and keep them to a high expectation, but also support them and believe in them and give them the benefit of the doubt that they can provide something that we didn't expect. I hope that this exercise today has provided a little bit of light on what this team could actually be and become, and we'll see what happens when the season starts. Until then, I truly appreciate you watching. Let me know your thoughts. Let me know what clearly if I've missed something and you want to give me your opinion, I'd love to hear it. I love to have this conversation. So let me know your thoughts. In the meantime, thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.